Alright. Who came to play? Alright, all opinions expressed are mine. If you see life like I do, you will. If you don't, you won't. That's just the way it's going to be. We're going to be looking at the word
woman.
I like doing that.
Woman.
An adult human female. Alright, so a female co-worker or employee, a wife, a girlfriend. Okay, so we're going to look at some of these words. So a lady is a woman who behaves in a polite way. So a woman is just anyone classified as a human female. All right. So when we see men's room and women's room, this is the classification of it. Now, when we go further from the difference between a woman and a lady, right, it means a division of society according to status. Now, when you think of status, a lot of people think of course, as it states, their societal status. All right, and with that comes a mentality. Now, we say that we want to be what? Humble, but we run around and what? It is to shout, right? To call to arms. We need to think about the words that we use. Now, this is the word class, right? And class is to divide into classes. Now, I want you to think about the word woman and lady. Now, I want you to honestly ask yourself, when people talk about me, do they call me a
Female.
Or do they call me a lady? Or do they call me a
woman?
You need to think about this, because this term female that is being used amongst our community, we need to honestly examine what it means. It's denoting the sex. So right off the bat, someone that's using the term female with you is basing this upon your sex, not necessarily your gender, right? Now, of course, when we look over here, yes, it's an adult human female. Now, adult is a stage, a growth of life, right? Now, the term female doesn't seem to really be a growth. Now, remember, there are stages of growth and stages of maturity. How many times have you heard someone say, grow up and act like an adult? Now, think about this, even if the term isn't really necessarily applied to you, because the true goal would be to eradicate the term female from amongst the people that are colored, that have been painted with different types of color. Because this is a term that denotes the sex that can bear offspring or produce eggs. So when you consider yourself a female, you now put yourself in the category of what? Plants and animals. Now, why would you need to use such a loose term to put you on the same playing field as plants and animals? Let me ask you a question. Don't people trample over plants? Don't people slaughter animals? Don't people crap on humans? Or isn't it well known that men crap on adult
woman,
human females? Don't we have something called women's rights because of it? Don't we have women's liberation because of this? unfortunately, some of this led to the terms of female. Now understand, in the so-called term black, a term that is silly to use in the predicament that we are in. The term black denotes from Supreme Court that you are classifying yourself as a second-class citizen. For ourselves to educate ourselves over our personal history, to dig up our own roots, we can come a lot closer to whom we actually are than just using the broad term black or even colored. But this term female amongst women and ladies, again, puts them on the same level as plants and animals. And I'll show you this in literature. Now, here we have
bitch,
and it is a female dog, wolf, fox, or other. A difficult or unpleasant situation or thing. Synonyms are nightmare and more. Or express displeasure or grumble. To bitch. He's over there bitching. Now we're going to look at the etymology of each of these words and a few more, just so we get a clear understanding of what we're actually saying when we say woman, lady, female, and bitch. When people call us woman, lady, female, or bitch. Now, a woman, an adult human, an adult female woman. Late Old English, women, whim, look for the syllable, women. Alright, so, or woman and plural, women. Literally woman and man, alteration of wife, man, plural wife, man. Woman, female, servant. A compound of wife, woman, see wife, plus man. So wife plus man equals the word woman. Human being, used in reference in both sexes. Alright, so we pretty much understand what a woman is, right? Is the female, opposite of man. Right? Alright, so the term wife, we're going to look at the term wife. So the term wife is from Middle English, wife with, from Old English, woman, female, lady. Also, but not especially, a wife from Proto-Germanic wibben. Also from Old Sax, Norse, Danish. Now, you know, these people use V's and U's instead of W's, so it's the same sound though. Alright, and of uncertain origin and not found in Goth. Let's go. Apparently felt as inadequate. Okay, so a wife, inadequate in its basic sense, leading to the more distinctive formation of wife man source woman. Dutch wife now means in slang girl or babe, having softened somewhat from the earlier sense of bitch. Now, isn't that interesting? A wife had an earlier sense of bitch. Cognate, the modern German cognate combining Weib also tends to be slighting or derogatory. Middle High German whip up until medieval times as a woman or a female person. Being retained for woman of gentle birth, lady, but from the 1200 whip took on a common almost vulgar tone that restricted its use in certain circles largely has been displaced by fraud. All right. The more usual Indo-European word is represented in English by queen or queen. Queen, or with slang, queen. Words for woman also double for wife in some languages. Some proposed pie root for wife includes weep. To twist, turn, wrap, perhaps in the sense of a veiled person. To twist, turn, or wrap. Okay. And the more recently, Giwaba, a proposed root meaning shame, also pundenda, but the one only examples of it would be the Germanic words and Tatrarian, almost i.e. language of Central Asia, Kewap Kip, female puenda. The modern sense of female spouse began as a specialized sense of Old English, and the general sense of woman is preserved in midwife, old wives' tales, etc. Middle English sense of mistress of a household. Mistress of a household survives in a household, and the latter restricted sense of a trade woman of humble rank. In Fishwife, by 1883, a passive partner of a homosexual couple. Wife swapping is attested from, why did it go there? Who knows? But from 1954. Now, it's pretty interesting what this word wife comes from. But let's go a little further into this. Now, the word bitch came up on wife, and it said, as a slang, girl babe, often having softened somewhat from earlier sense of bitch. Alright, so where do we get this word bitch from? Alright, bitch, to complain, attested from the 1930s, perhaps in a sense in bitchy, perhaps influenced by the verb meaning to bungle, spoil, which is recorded in 1832, but bitched in the sense seems to echo Old English beached, cursed, bad, a general term of opprobrium, as in Chaucer's beached bones, unlucky dice. Which despite the hesitation of OED seemed to be a derivative of bitch. Now, Old English bitch, female dog, probably from Old Norse bijuna, female of the dog, also fox, wolf, occasionally of other beasts. All right, which is of unknown origin. Grimm's, the old storyteller, Grimm's derives Old Norse words from lapizita, but the OED notes that the converse is equally possible. As a term of contempt applied to women, it dates from the 1400s of a man, 1500s playfully in the sense of a dog, used among male homosexuals from the 1930s and modern 1990s, originally from African American vernacular. Now, isn't that weird? All these things that came before the 1990s, in here it just starts to say originally. originally came from present time, but when used in the past, we don't know where it came from, right? Now, originally, right? Now in the 1400s, right? As a term of contempt applied to women, originally dates to the 1400s. And now in modern times, specifically, right? Something that, or originating from the African American vernacular, slang, its use with reference to a man is sexually contemptuous with a woman, from the woman insult. She a dog or doggess, the most offensive appellation that can be given to the English woman, even more provoking than that of whore. All right, so when we go over here and we look up the word contempt, or how they used it here is contemptuous. When you look up contemptuous, it digs back to contempt. It is scorn, to despise someone. All right, so again, here it is: to slight someone, to scorn someone, which is of uncertain origin. Actually, when we go to the word bitch, you say it is a term that is contempt. That's the word contemptuous, right? Apply contemptuous. Now here it's contemptuous, right? Sexually contemptuous, right? From the woman insult, right? So if you try to get some play and a woman turns you down, your response is what? You are scorned, so your response is bitch, right? Now everybody else in the world uses it as a complaint, or if they're caught complaining, but no, it originates from the African American community if they don't get any puddle, right? No honey, and she's a bitch. Now, no matter what you think these words mean, this is the system you're in, and this is the etymology of the words of the system that you're in. Let's go further. Now, what is a lady? We're going to have a little bit of fun and try to pronounce that. I mean, why not, right? We're only almost 20 minutes in, right? Lady is from the 12th century. Lafdi or la vede, and vede, lady, ede, lavede. All right, so from Old English, halvedi, whatever. Okay, whatever. Mistress of a household, wife of a lord. Okay, now we're starting to get somewhere. Apparently, one who needs, apparently, literally one who needs bread. From half bread, all right, or loaf. Yeah, I want you guys to think about something. Remember when you you hear people talk about when someone's pregnant, they say she's got one in the oven, right? So here you have maid or maker of dough, all right? And I want you to think about that. Dough is something that you need, all right? Knead the bread. When you think about clay and that man is formed with clay, clay is something that you need, just like you need bread. It's something you stick your fingers in and push down to make sure there's no clumps and things like that. Um, clump inside of us that doesn't belong is called what? Cancer. If you guys want more information on that, look up Dr. Sebi. It seems he had a pretty interesting equation. Here we have makers of dough. Notice when your wife is pregnant, it's like there's a loaf of bread that has risen in her belly. All right. So in the medieval time, the F disappeared. The word is not found outside the English except where borrowed from it. Sense of a woman's superior position in society, right? So a lady is a woman of superior position, right? Or in the sense of, right? Um, 12th century, that of woman whose manners and sensibilities benefit her for what? High rank in society. Suggesting this sense is attested from the 1580s, meaning woman chosen as an object of chivalrous love, a lady, something to chase, something to what? Chivalrous love, right? Well, that's not a word that we very much use, right? All these Caucasians came from England where chivalry was displayed, but yet we don't use the word chivalry anymore, right? Chivalrous, right? And it's knightly noble, chivalrous, right? And the Edomites, right? These people were what? They dealt with a lot of that noble stuff. They had chivalry. You guys keep calling these white people Edomites, but you don't see anything noble from them. Their communities grow, your communities suffer. 3 years in a row, 4 years in a row, they build in their community. Once every 4 years, they give you a brand new phone booth. And everybody's got cell phones now. So now you get what? Park bench. These guys like to loiter, so we'll just give them a park bench. So let's go further into this. Chivalrous love, uh, used commonly as an address to any woman since the 1890s. Because why? In the 1890s, what? They were acting, even pretending, for what? Rank of society. Now, we are dealing with a caste system where cultural hegemony is placed over us. Now, we're going to get away from lady for a minute. Let's see if we can. Now, dominance. Someone dominates us. We are led by people that are not our own. Do you understand that? Someone has told their entire people that we shall rule over them. If we, at one point, remember Columbus said, when we came over and saw these people and how they dwelt and how clean everything was, my men thought they were in heaven. And these people what? Murdered. Most of them. So if we had all this stuff and sovereignty, these people has decided we shall dominate them through what? Leadership, right? Don't we always talk about that? What is that called? I give you full and free permission to what? To go and steal. Take these documents, but steal everything. Invade them. Search them out if they run from your invasion. While you're searching them out and you find them, capture them. And once you capture them, subjugate them. Lock them down. Any unbelievers of Christ. Take their kingdoms. take their leaders, take their countries, take their take their idols, their gods, whatever they worship, any holy material, take it. Any religious material, take it. Anything to do with the principality, snatch it. And any other property you may find, gold, silver, children, women, anything you want. And then Columbus came to the Americas and found you. And now, don't forget, in history, they said, send your dark children to all white schools, or we'll lynch you, or we'll throw you in jail. So now you've learned the meanings to words that aren't true. So now it is really hard for you to communicate with somebody on the other side of the world because they learn different definitions. Now, look at hegemon, deals with leader, sovereign, right? Now, forget what they say. There's a reference to position of Great Britain in the world. Forget all that. Cut that. Stop all that shit. Just drop all that. The Greek word hegemon means authority, leader, sovereign. So they came here and stole our sovereignty through the sword. What was their favorite type of sword? Biological weapons. They destroyed us through disease. They passed out the blankets in the 1800s. They brought the plague with them. Don't think that was an accident. Don't for 1 minute think that was an accident.
Horrors of Thanksgiving and America as a white future minority. Coming up.
Far and away the most massive genocide in the history of the world. The lowest life expectancy in the West. And the year the U.S. will turn native.
Virtually none of Thanksgiving has an ounce of accuracy, notes the bestseller Lies My Teacher Told Me. The idea of Europe bringing civilization to the Americas simply flips truth on its head. This is what European explorers actually found in North America.
Far and away the most beautiful city on Earth.
The most beautiful city on earth.
5 times the size of London.
Five times the size of London, right? London's their great achievement. 5 times the size of their great achievement.
Rome. Great towers and buildings rising from the water. 60,000 gleaming houses, and how spacious and how well built they were. Of beautiful stonework and cedarwood, and the wood.
Listen to this part right here.
60,000 gleaming houses, and how spacious and how well built they were. Of beautiful stone.
Listen to that. Houses, not huts, not teepees, houses.
Great towers and buildings rising from the water.
Rising from the water. Do you understand the de-evolution that happened to the freaking earth because of the Europe, or because of the people that we've been taught like chimpanzees to call these people Europeans. They conquered Europe. That means they came from somewhere else. De-evolution. You know how hard it is to build from water? The foundation of water built upwards. And these people were able to do it. Venice is their big claim to fame, right? With Water City is Venice, and it looks like what? Venice, Italy, right? This is their claim to fame. And when they came and saw you could already do this, they destroyed yours.
"60,000 gleaming houses, and how spacious and how well built they were, of beautiful stonework and cedar wood, and the wood of other sweet-scented trees. The many streets and boulevards of the city were so neat and well swept, despite the multitude of inhabitants, crisscrossed with a complex network of canals, like an enormous Venice, but also remarkable.
Like a what?
But also remarkable, like an enormous Venice.
Like an enormous Venice. Right? So if they were alive today and they saw this, they would see that this is just a shoebox. Just a little shoebox. And what they do, they tore it all down. They murdered most of the people. Through what? Disease?
But also remarkable floating gardens that reminded of nowhere else on Earth.
While Europe was drinking water from its polluted city rivers, huge
Polluted city rivers. How do rivers get polluted? Don't we have pollution in rivers here now? I wonder if we had pollution in the rivers here before Europeans came.
from its polluted city rivers,
Reminded of nowhere else on Earth.
while
Nowhere else on Earth. And they destroyed it. That's how good these people are. No, we're not talking about a common thief robbing one person, God forbid, raping one person. We're talking about different tribes of European people coming over here and decimating millions. We're talking about the most disgusting act in history.
Europe was drinking water from its polluted city rivers, huge aqueducts transported America's water from fresh springs.
But what impressed most were the special merchant areas.
Now, you can't have fresh water today. You turn on your rusty pipes and tell me that water's fresh, you're crazy. But you can go buy some bottled water and some Brita water, right? Because that's what you've been trained to do. They go what? They just go get it from where? The reserve, or they claim they go to a fresh spring. Most of your city waters came from springs that have been pushed or turned into reserves. Water reserves.
Where timber and tiles and other building materials were bought and sold, as well as greengrocer streets where one could buy every sort of vegetable, fruits, honeys, nut paste and chocolates. Astonished by the personal cleanliness and hygiene of the colourfully dressed populace, and by their extravagant use of soaps, deodorants and breath sweeteners.
Most Europeans never bathed and kept clothes on at all times. The Pilgrim's Notes biographer Zini Feiner had a terrible smell. Indians tried, quote, without success to teach them to bathe. The settlers also had bad breath from rotting teeth. Death and starvation was so common that corpses were just dumped in open pits known as poreholes. Many turned to alcohol and...
Now, when they commit genocide, don't they dump all the bodies into an open pit and cover it with a tractor? They've been doing this for hundreds of years, even to their own people.
Corpses were just dumped in open pits known as poreholes. Many turned to alcohol and committed suicide. In fact, the story of the first settlers has been deliberately changed, notes author James Lowen, because the truth is so shameful. They actually settled hundreds of miles further south and stayed in America because the mission was a failure. Their real aim, reports historian Robert Bevan.
I want you to hear that again. Here you go, King James Town, the King James Bible, right?
Because the mission was a failure. Their real aim, reports historian Robert Beverley, was to find some gold and take it back to Europe.
They spent their days digging random holes in the ground. haplessly looking for gold instead of planting crops. Soon they were starving and digging up putrid Indian corpses to eat. They took some Indian prisoners and forced them to teach the colonists how to farm.
So they took Indian prisoners. They were eating the dead. Then they said, enough with that. We've already cleaned out the graveyards, right? Remember, Indian graves are sacred, right? So these people went in the graves and ate the dead. They went into the sacred land and ate the dead, right? All right. Now you poltergeists, Indian burial grounds and all that, say, right? These people don't give a shit about you in any form at all. They just want you to spend your money on their products.
And the meal with the natives wasn't quite the Thanksgiving shown on TV and in school books.
So they took the natives and forced them to teach them how to what? How to farm, right? But for some reason, it wasn't really working. Now listen here.
The colonists offered the Indians a toast to eternal friendship, whereupon the chief, his family, advisors, and 200 followers dropped dead of poison. And a toast to eternal friendship, whereupon the toast to eternal friendship. The colonists offered the Indians a toast to eternal friendship, whereupon the chief, his family, advisors, and 200 followers dropped dead of poison.
So this is the first Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving is coming up, and you're going to go and buy a turkey to celebrate what? The colonists coming over? Oh, it's October. It's next month, right? You're gonna celebrate this like you have the year before, because you are well deep in their traditions. And notice most of their traditions revolve around your slaughter. 4th of July, independence from England. Five of the 13 colonies are named after New England stuff. It's called the New England area. How'd they separate from England? They didn't.
In mainstream history books, perhaps the most common description of American territory then is virgin land. In fact, notes historian Peter Jennings,
Virgin land, right? How can it be virgin land if there's people there? So what these people do? They poisoned your forefathers.
on TV,
They forced your forefathers to teach them to farm. Then they poisoned your forefathers and took over their farmland.
and in school books.
The colonists offered the Indians a toast to eternal friendship, whereupon the chief, his family, advisors, and 200 followers dropped dead of poison.
200 followers, 200 family members. And then what?
In mainstream history books, perhaps the most common description of American territory then is virgin land.
Manifest destiny, right?
In fact, notes historian Peter Jennings, it was widowed, horrific.
There it is. U.S. not virgin land. It was widowed. The invasion of America. Indians, colonialism, and the cant of conquest.
Enough the Nazi ethnic cleansings in Europe during World War II. Leading American studies professor David Stannard notes it's dwarfed by, quote, far and away the most massive act of genocide in the history of the world. The death of 100 million indigenous people in the, quote, American Holocaust, some from disease, but also vast numbers from a deliberate policy aimed at wiping out the race that mainstream history books continue to pretend.
Some from disease. So look, these people came here with disease, all right? So don't be fooled by this. So we're going to look at some more words real quick. So we looked at hegemony, and we understand that somebody's ruling over us, all right? Originally of predominance, dominance of one city, state, or another in Greek history, right? hegemony, but we're chasing the word lady. And from lady, we get to the word mistress, because a lady is a what? Mistress of a household. So when we look at the word mistress, it comes from a female teacher or governess. All right. Mistress can also be a lover, a housekeeper, a governess, a female teacher. All right. The monarch says is a what? Female of mastre or a master. Now, as a noun, it's a sense of a woman who employs others or has authority over servants. This is from the what? The 15th century, right? Sense of a kept woman married of a man is from the 15th century as well. All right, let's go a little further in this. Now, when we look at the term female, now this is the term that causes the most problem in our community, and we don't see it that way. Early 14th century Old French femelle or female from medieval Latin femella, a female, a young female, is diminutive of femina or woman. So I have to ask you a question. All right, what does the word diminutive mean? All right, so when we look up the word diminutive, it is in grammar, late 14th century, a noun, derivative word denoting a small or inferior example of what is meant by the word. Okay, so listen, if you're a female and you're a adult human, calling yourself a female, leaving the adult human part, you're making yourself what? An inferior example of a woman, a smaller example of a woman. This is a term that a lot of women or young ladies are using. Now, a lot of people don't see it's a problem because the nature of vernacular that these people use. You do not see young ladies calling themselves females because they carry themselves at a higher social standard. If I was single and I went to a church and I was looking for a wife, there's not many women in that church that is going to say that they are a female. They would say that they are a woman or a young lady. You see the difference there? Now, when you're calling yourself this female, you're attracting something that's much different, right? Just like there's these different words for woman, there are different words for men. Now, here's an interesting word, queen. Now, we hear a lot of people state that they are queen, but there are certain standards that are met by what we call a queen. Now, when we look at queen, it's from Old English, female ruler of a state. You are in America, which has been, you're overthrown. You are a perpetual servant. So the term queen kind of doesn't fit. Now, I've stated this is a touchy subject, so I'm just gonna leave it at that, because a lot of people's mentality is based on their ego, not on reality. Now, a queen is a woman, and what type of woman is a queen? It's a wife. Hence, when you also get Ooh, looking forward here. There was a part in here where it talks about marriage. There it is. Marriage of taking of a queen. There it is. All right. Now, Kavaz, Kavanlaus is an unmarried widow, unmarried or widowed. All right. The domineering of a wife. All right. So the original sense seems to have been wife, specialized by Old English to wife of a king. So we have a lot of women that are being ruled over. They are not ruler of a state. They are, in fact, unmarried. Unmarried, which brings a different term up. You know, and they are not married to a king. You know, it seems we live in a world where we are pretending just as much as the people that oppress us. I think we should wake to a reality. This is why I've expressed the need to divide. So keep this in mind, because it is our social standings that press upon our mental perception of things. We are prisoners of war, and they brought this thing, and our people are still bound by it. It's important that we reach out to them and stop this open worship of these people. It's becoming sickening. And a lot of our women wear wigs. And notice it means to behave hysterically. Now, how many people see ourselves recorded in public and broadcast to others behaving hysterically? How many people see the effects that a wig does to a person's hair? I should leave it like that. To go further into it, might discuss people. Understand a person wears a wig to hide their identity, to hide their image. If I got into an accident and I scarred my head, I wore a wig, it would be to hide my image. My real image would be that scar. You understand what I'm saying? If I just don't like my hair the way it is naturally, then to hide it with a wig is an act of shame. And we refuse to see it that way because we've been taught differently with images. I hope you understand what I'm trying to get across. And I hope you understand we need a change.